What is going on YouTube? Welcome to Redhead Tech, and today I'm going to be showing you how to put OS X Mavericks on your PC using a program called Niresh. Now this program does support AMD processors, which is actually in my computer right now, so I can tell you for a fact that it absolutely without a doubt supports the AMD A10 680K APU. Now, at the time when I bought it, that was one of the most powerful ones, but of course now they have their Caviar series, and those are a bit more powerful and a bit more amped up. So I don't know if it will support those for those of you users who are, really wanting the newest premium stuff from AMD. But anybody using an FX series processor or another AMD processor, this will definitely be a great guide for you, as well as Intel users, as Niresh does support that as well. Now, we are going to be using specific boot flags, and I'll talk about those a little bit later in the video. But if you want to know my hardware specs, those will be in the description down below. And if you guys do have any questions for me, leave a comment, like, and subscribe. So I will be showing you in this tutorial how to install OS X Mavericks on your Intel or AMD based PC. So let's jump right into it and let's see what we can do with your computer with OS X Mavericks. What is going on YouTube? Welcome back to Redhead Tech, and we are going to start the installation of Niresh by putting it onto our thumb drive. And as you can see here, I do have my OS X Mavericks Niresh DMG right here. And that is the file that I will link in the description below. That will be on his website, and you can sign in either with Facebook, Twitter, or just create an account on there, which actually would be very useful because he actually does have a lot of forms and a lot of troubleshooting that can really help you guys out. Now, the requirements that you will need to be able to do this installation to your computer, you will need an empty USB flash drive, which needs to be 6 gigabytes or larger. This does not work with DVDs, and this does not work with Blu-ray players, as Mac does not support it, and that the DVD is too small to support this file. Now, you do need to have an empty hard drive. Doing the boot on a dual booting, a dual boot would actually be a lot more difficult because the way that Windows is filed, which is NTFS, which is the file format for Windows, is not compatible to be partitioned using disk utility or no other Mac OS partitioning programs that I'm aware of. However, you can install OS X Mavericks using Windows as well. I will do a video on that later if you guys really want to see that, so let me know in the comments by liking this video and, of course, subscribing. So the first thing that we are going to want to do is of course, create the Niresh USB flash drive. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to open up Disk Utility. Give it a second here. Sorry about that. And as you can see, I have my hard drives and thumb drive right here. So this is my first Mavericks hard drive that I keep my documents and the actual programs and computer hardware, not computer hardware, but the operating system itself. However, on this one up here, the Samsung drive, not that Samsung, but this Samsung 500 gigabyte drive, I keep games and other types of media on here for editing and stuff like that. So here's my thumb drive. And so what we're going to want to do is we are just going to want to type in any name. It really doesn't matter, and the file format does not matter either, as it will just be writing over whatever we have inside of it anyway. Well, when we do our terminal, so we will have to bring up terminal, and we will have to have a little bit of knowledge to be able to do what we need to do. It's not that difficult. Your desktop, I will show you how to get it from your desktop into where it'll show up in terminal. So it is formatted, it is back mounted, and so we can now close Disk Utility. And the next thing we're going to want to do is, of course, open Mavericks. It restored it. So let's actually get a new window. Cancel that one out. That was my previous try at this, which went okay. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is type in disk util and then list. And that's going to bring up all of the hard drives and partitions on our computer. And so what you're going to be looking for is the disk identifier. So as you can see here, my thumb drive, not the partitions, which is followed by an S3 or S2 or what have you, it is just disk 4. So what you're going to want to type in, excuse me while I look at some directions here, is going to be disk util unmount disk /dev/ the disk identifier. So as you can see on the right side, I see identifier, and the disk that I want to unmount is going to be our thumb drive, and that will be disk 4. And as soon as I hit enter, you should see the Mavericks USB thumb drive on my screen go gray and disappear. And it was successful in doing so. Now, the next thing that you're going to need to do is actually be it's going to be a little bit more complicated. Now, I am curious to see if I drag the file into here, what it would do with it. So I will let you know if anything goes wrong, and if it does, I will take this video back a bit and probably not even show it. If I do, I got it right then. I don't know. So the location of Niresh, or the OS X here. So I did drag it in, and that worked perfectly. That did exactly what I wanted it to do. So that what followed it is what's called the directory. So it's directing it into the correct location of the file, and so it did exactly what I wanted it to do. And that's what you guys can do as well, is just drag it into your terminal after typing in if equals, and do not put a space, because that will mess it up. It will confuse the program. It will not know where to reference it for, and that will be the file. Do not hit enter yet, as there is still more to enter. Type in of equals /dev, and there is no space in between that, by the by, /r. What you want to type in is the disk identifier of the thumb drive, which is disk 4. And then you need to space BS equal 1M. So if I hit enter, it should either bring up with a password, or since I entered it only a few moments ago during some other processes that I was doing, it may not ask me for it. So if I enter and it does sort of freeze, that will be normal. It does take 15 to 20, even 30 minutes to copy this file, as it is a very large file, and it is doing a lot of stuff to the USB while it's copying it. It did ask me for my password, so I will type that in, and you will not see your password show up in your terminal while you're doing this. So as you can see, it is successfully copying it over as it is paused. So I will come back to this in a couple of minutes and see how it's doing, and if it is finished, I will resume. And like I said, this may take up to 10, 15, or even 30 minutes to complete, as it is copying a fairly large file and doing a lot of work to the USB to make it perfectly compatible and bootable. Now, you can restore your USB to perfectly functioning order like any USB thumb drive just by formatting it, and there is no problems with it. So I will be right back, and we will see how this goes. And we are back, and it is finished being put on to my thumb drive. Now, it did take around 23, 24 minutes to do it, so it did take a while. But it's finished, and that's all that matters. So once this is done, you will need to go into your BIOS or UEFI BIOS. Well, actually, it isn't a BIOS, but it's your setup. So I'm going to restart my computer, switch to my camera, and we will configure this using my camera instead of course, screen recording, because you can't really do that. So I will be right back. Okay, so I am back, and I am just about to turn on my computer. So on most motherboards and on most computers themselves, when you first turn it on, you might see an option like to enter setup or to enter BIOS or UEFI or whatever you do have. We'll see like hit the delete key, hit F8. In my case, it is F8. So it is the delete key. So I will turn on my computer. It will come up, and as you can see, the bottom right hand corner, it has some code. So I will hit the delete key to set up the BIOS. So I am in my BIOS here, and as you can see, I do have a mouse to move around, which is very nice. And what you want to do is actually, do you see this over here? On my motherboard, it's just a quick menu. So the USB is set as the last one, and that's not what we want. We want to move it to the very front, so it's the first thing. However, on some other motherboards, it may be like hard drive boot order. No, excuse me, USB boot order. So as you can see, it's the only USB boot I have. On other motherboards, it of course may be different, and there may be other settings. So the SATA mode, or the connections that you have, you need to have AHCI mode selected, because RAID won't work, nor does IDE work, as it is an older way of transferring data, which is not supported on OS X Mavericks or other types of OS X. Now, all of this is fine. Nothing else really needs to be looked at. And if it isn't turning on correctly, or it isn't showing up, we will talk about that at a later point. And you can, of course, leave me a comment or question down below in the comment section if anything goes wrong. So I'm going to exit out of my BIOS and hit Save Configuration and restart. And what this should do is it should just do a quick reset or restart. Come up with a USB thumb drive, so it will show the motherboard. And as you can see right here, we have our selection. So as of course, if I wanted to go straight into this from the USB, I could do that. However, I already have a bootloader installed onto my hard drive, so I don't need to use the USB really ever. It's just if you need to do it if something's corrupted or something's wrong, or if you're not able to access it. So because I have an AMD APU, I will type in AMD -V. So -V is called verbose mode. So instead of having the little spinning apple or what have you, it brings up all the text and all the stuff that it goes through, which is very, very helpful for troubleshooting. So if you have an FX series processor of AMD, you type in AMD FX -V or AMD 64-bit -V. And these will be the required bootloaders that you might need to use. However, for me, it's just AMD -V. So as soon as I hit enter, it should enter into, of course, the USB. So in some instances, it may seem like it might be stuck or you're having issues, but it does take some time to boot up, especially after it's done turning on. So in the left-hand corner, in a few moments here after reading all my hard drives or partitions, you'll see the mouse that I'll be able to move around, and you'll maybe even see it then. It's sort of interesting. It does take quite a while to actually bring up the graphical user interface after this. So as you can see here, you can see my mouse moving around sort of over here now. I can't click on anything because there's no graphical user interface loaded up yet. But just give it a few minutes, and I mean give it a few minutes. As long as your mouse is still able to move around, it's okay. Now it does take a very long time. I mean 3, 4, 5 minutes to come up with the graphical user interface. But once it does, you will be happy that it did, because you will be able to fully configure all of your components well, at least most of your components, using the customization tool. But first, I am going to show you what the boot disk utility looks like inside of the configurator here, which is the same as Mac OS X. However, I do have to partition one of my hard drives to be able to install a new one to show you guys exactly what to do. So I am going to leave this here for a few minutes, and I am going to come right back as soon as the graphical user interface comes right up. So I will see you in a second. Okay, and I am back, and as you can see, the boot has successfully turned the USB into the bootable version, and I am now moving around and doing all that. So I, select my main language, which is English, which, whoever's watching this, probably English. Continue. So I want to go to Utilities, go to Disk Utility. Give it a second. Okay. And so I need to partition this drive right here, because I don't actually have another size over here. So let's just make this size, let's say 40 gigabytes, because we're not going to need that much space, and that'll be fine. So as you can see, that's the size that it made it. So I'm just going to hit I want to change this to Mavericks Demo. So hit apply, partition, and so by doing it this way, by hitting the plus button instead of selecting up here, it will not delete any of the information that is currently on that drive, which is exactly what you want if you're doing anything like I'm doing right now. However, it will not be able to do this with Windows NTFS file types, because it just does not support it. So as you can see, it has my Mavericks demo, which is completely empty, and so I just want to exit out of Disk Utility, hit Continue. All the people here who are listed here, like Niresh, he worked very hard on this, and I think that he really deserves some gratitude for this. So go check out his Facebook, his Twitter, and his website, which is 12495.com. Pardon me for getting that wrong in the very beginning. So I'm going to hit agree, and I'm going to hit not that one. I'm going to hit Mavericks Demo, and I'm going to hit customize. So the bootloader that you want for the AMD processors is going to be Chameleon Standard. If you have EFI, that's fine, but just do Standard to make it easier so I can troubleshoot, because that's the one that I went with, even though I do have a UEFI motherboard. It just makes it simpler, and it doesn't cause a lot of confusion when going back and forth trying to help you guys out. So for me, I don't need the graphics enabler, because I have a GTX 770 that does not need that, because it can just work on its own. So I do want to uncheck that. I want the audio drivers, and I want the network drivers. So for me, I did have to personally install the network driver, and I had to do a couple little extra things to make it work, but that's just because my motherboard is one of the newest motherboards from MSI that supports the AMD processors, so that makes sense. However, on older motherboards, this won't be an issue. For this tab here, you don't need any of that unless you do have not a CPU, excuse me, an Intel processor or other hardware that supports the monitoring of temperatures. However, it's not really needed because it shows up as otherwise anyway. It shows up fine anyway. It can handle on its own what it needs to do, and the fans always run on your computer anyway. So SM BIOS right here, this is actually where you can sort of select your model. So let's say you want to have a Mac Mini version 6.2. I can do that, and it won't really change anything. It'll just show up as that. So the power management, I don't have any power management because I am using an unsupported CPU. So all these here I do want to keep. just because that's what it actually made. For the people who developed the AMD kernel, which was the AMD-V, that was what we used to boot up with. So these are the checks that we need to have, and if they aren't checked, then leave them unchecked, because that means your computer doesn't have to boot with them. USB fix. If you had trouble booting into the USB, you will have to type in as a boot flag after -V, USB bus fix equal yes. So these are very specific. They need to be capitalized or what have you. But of course, that will all be supported by me and by the Niresh community. So we don't need to do that, and let's look at some of this other stuff here. Chipset drivers. Well, we don't have the chipset drivers for us, so we will want to make sure that no CPU power management is selected, because it will not boot unless that is selected, because it will not recognize our CPU. And to make this easier for you guys to see, I'm sorry, I should have zoomed in on this earlier. Pardon me. So you will want to have that selected anyway for specific mouses and keyboards, just in case. Excuse me, not that one. You just want to have all of this selected. So whatever is selected, it makes you want to make sure that it's selected, especially USB 3.0 and trim support for SSD. It's just good to have it in the future if you do decide to add things to your computer or what have you. If you guys didn't see before, I didn't have any of those selected. I had the boot flags as, like a Mac Mini or a Mac Pro or what have you. The boot flags, like I said, the general options, those are the ones that I have selected right there, so you guys can get a look at those. No power management, because AMD does not support it. And if you do have a problem booting, just leave a comment down below and I will be sure to help you. So we are okay. Let me zoom back out here. And so let me just hit install. And it will start installing successfully onto your hard drive. So as soon as this is complete and it is into the restarting mode, I will resume filming and we will set up OS X Mavericks on an AMD CPU or APU. I will be right back. Welcome back, YouTube, to the Hackintosh Mavericks installation here. There's about a few minutes remaining from the time remaining over there to actually install Mavericks. So while this is happening, I just wanted to talk for a few minutes about some of the requirements that you may need to actually boot into the setup process. On my computer, the reason why I did disable the graphics enabler boot flag, that check mark that we did to make sure that the graphics were off, the reason I did that is because when I booted up my computer into the Mavericks partition, which worked fine up to the point where, the spinning apple, it would turn gray and I would not see a mouse, and there was nothing to actually see on the screen, which was, of course, a problem. So the fix for that was to turn off the graphics enabler, and that's what you do in this option or as a boot flag, which I will show you as soon as this reboots. Another thing that I had to do was put it in safe mode, which is, you remember the -V that we did, which was verbose mode? Well, the mode that we're going to put it in as well is safe mode. So we're going to do -V-X to make sure that we don't see any errors while booting, and also to make sure that we are in safe mode so that our computers, or specifically my computer, does not freeze while setting up Mavericks on that Mavericks demo partition that we made earlier in this video. So there are only a few moments remaining, so I am just going to skip this part for now, and we'll resume as soon as it's ready. So the installation, as you can see, was a success. we had no problems, and so it will now restart. And as we did start in verbose mode, it will boot out, or excuse me, shut down in verbose mode. So we are turning back on. And the first thing that we want to do is type in F11. So, or bring up your boot menu, which will tell which hard drive or which device to boot into. So let me zoom in here so you can see it a little bit better. So as you can see, I have these options here, and I just use my keyboard, or I can even use my mouse since I, have the option, but I'd rather just use the keyboard for now. So the hard drive that I installed it onto was this one. I made sure that it was this Samsung instead of that Samsung. So I need to hit enter to make sure that it goes into this one instead of this one. So I hit enter. I will zoom back out so you can see what it's doing. So in the left top hand corner, in the left top hand corner it said something to the effect of boot 0 : done, which is exactly what you want to see. If you have any errors, let me know in the comments below, like I said previously. So as you can see, our Mavericks demo right here. Our Mavericks demo is the one that is selected, so to see the mouse there, that's actually not my cursor moving around, that's just the selection that it's decided to go with. So there's Niresh Mavericks, which was our flash drive. There's our my Windows partitions, the original Hackintosh that I already have established on this computer, which is the untitled one. Excuse me. And the Mavericks demo. So to boot into this, what I'm going to do is type in -X here at the bottom. Let me adjust my camera and zoom in so you can see that a little bit better. As you can see, I have typed in -X in here, and let's say you did not turn off the graphics enabler, you would need to type in graphics enabler, and this is very caps specific, so all the caps count, so they need to be very specific to what I'm typing in. You would need to type in graphics enabler, no space between the equal signs or anything like that. That's what you would need to type in. And on different systems, let's say your USB drives aren't working when you boot it up, you may need to type in USB fix, or USB bus fix equal yes, or what have you, to boot into it correctly. But the only requirements that I need are the -X, which is safe mode boot flag. So I'm going to hit enter, and that will boot me into my Mavericks installation, my demo installation. But I also want to include -V so we can catch any errors if there are any, which would be very helpful in troubleshooting your issues. So I'm going to hit enter on that. That will run. Type in -V as well as -X, because those are both modes that I have to run specific code for to enable those modes. Pardon me. So as you can see, it is successfully going over the proper boot flags and doing what it is needing to do. And as you can see, baby, on the left-hand side, it recognizes my sound driver. It also recognizes my Ethernet controller. However, as it recognizes it, it does not successfully enable it. And that's a process that we'll go over if you have the specific hardware that I have, that I'll go over at a later time. So right now it's just checking the disk to make sure that everything's working. VM swap subsystem is on. That's one of the final steps before you get into the actual operating system, which should come up fairly soon. Now, like I said, this is safe mode, so it does take a little bit longer to make sure the disks are okay, check drivers and system files and things like that. It does a little bit extra when it's going through. However, you will not need to boot in safe mode every time. If you do, you will lose crucial functionality, and you will have inevitable problems down the road. So NVDA startup, which is like NVIDIA, it's fine. NVIDIA mode, okay. It's coming. It should be coming up with the graphical user interface, and it is on all of my screens actually. I have a couple. Okay, so it is just mirroring what I have here on the screen. Oh, well, sorry about that. That was my other USB drive. So if I hit continue, I would set it up with the local Ethernet. However, when I do that, I do have the occasional problem of it crashing, like I said right there. So it crashes and it reopens. So for right now, I'm just going to say my computer does not connect to the internet, so we don't have this issue. So I'm going to hit next, continue, don't transfer, agree to the software, demo. Now you actually have to put in a password in Mavericks. I don't know why, but they do require you to have a password. So let's just make it 1, just for the heck of it. So let's say continue. It's creating the account. Takes a few moments here. Now, as you can see, that is a Mac Mini. That is what I selected when I originally turned on the installer for my computer. However, if you have a much larger desktop, or if you have something that resembles an iMac, you of course can always type in whatever you need. So I put in my password. Zoom out here. Now, as you can see in the right top hand corner of the screen right there, you'll be able to see Safe Boot. Now that will absolutely, without a doubt, be your initial start, and it is booting into Mavericks. Now there are a few extra steps that we do need to talk about before you continue with anything else. You'll see something up here in the right hand corner of the screen. Let me zoom in so you're able to see it very clearly. So I will still be loading certain aspects of this. So you can see my mouse here. So you see this here? These Niresh 12495. These are very, very important. This is what it is doing in the background to make sure that your computer works and is compatible with everything. So this is installing BitTorrent. I think it's uTorrent or something to that effect. Kext Wizard, the Hack Store, which is like a fake Apple store or a fake Mac store. So what it's doing is it's repairing permissions. It's your Hackintosh is being configured, things like that. So while it is doing that, you should not be really doing anything else. You should just let the computer sit here and do whatever. So as soon as this is done configuring on my computer, I will come back and I will show you guys what to do next. Okay, and the installation of all the applications that we need to run with our Hackintosh is now finished. As you can see here, the installation was successful. Your Hackintosh is now finished. So it does bring up the internet. However, my computer isn't connected because it doesn't have the right drivers or what are called text files. So of course it's not going to show up. So it is finished. If you want to restart, that is okie dokie. So let's just see how fast it will restart with this new Mavericks installation. So I'm going to go up here to the little apple, hit restart, what you do need to do right here actually is unclick that reopen Windows when logging back in. Make sure that that's unclicked. I've discovered that when that is unclicked, it does help with the occasional issue of when that reinstall or installing programs thing comes up again in the right-hand corner, or the notification. It helps with that not coming up to where it's not always reinstalling, you know, the same software that you already have installed that they put on there, you know, however long ago you turned on your machine for the first time. So just make sure that that's unchecked, because that's helped me in the past. So we are going to hit restart. And that is the computer off right about now. So it should be restarting. And so to get back into the Mavericks installation, I want to go into my boot menu, which is F11 in my case. I want to select the main drive, which is my this drive here for me, because that's the one I put the demo on. I hit enter. Let me zoom back out. It will select the Mavericks demo by default, and it will boot successfully into OS X Mavericks. So I'm going to put a boot time on here somehow, and show you guys actually how long it takes to really boot into after a successful first installation and boot up. So this is the second boot up, and let's see how long it takes. So the sound has just kicked in, if you guys did not hear that. That was the sound being activated via the Voodoo HDA application, which is in System Preferences, which I'll show you guys and talk a little bit about. It's almost up here. And I believe that that is fully configured and fully on. So I will confirm my keyboard by doing what it tells me. American keyboard, yes. So if I, up here on the status bar, or the menu bar I should say, I have my, displays that I have here that I can change. I can monitor the temperature of my hard drives or other hardware that you enabled in that menu about temperature and such. And also desktop utility, which is just a little bit of a helpful tool for certain tasks that you really don't need unless you're doing real advanced stuff. But if you just want to, Mavericks running on your PC that you can either show off to your friends or just use on the daily, that's fine as well. They say that, well, this is for, demonstrational purposes or, whatever. But I've been using this for about a week and a half, and I have had no kernel panics, which is like a crash. I have had no major issues besides sound and text, and of course my Ethernet. But besides that, I have had no major issues with my computer. So if you guys do have any questions, yet again, please let me know in the comments below, like, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching Redhead Tech. Bye!